are you? And where are you going? What do you want?
Hello and welcome to People Making Money. I'm your host, Kevin Bemmel, and we're here every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific time to talk about matters related to starting and running a business, building a professional practice, and also wealth building. And so without any further ado, because I want to get right to my guest, Aram Afshar. So Aram and I met actually through a mutual friend of ours, Sharon Nasir at Air Advisors. Sharon is a wealth advisor, and we kind of hit it off. We have I think a somewhat similar background, and in a subsequent call, Aaron was telling me about a service, a kind of a new real estate service in which he's involved. So I said, hey, really would love to have you come on the show. And so here we are. And I don't want to spend a lot of time with me talking, get right to Aaron. So first of all, thanks for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Kevin, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. It was great to meet you a few months ago. And yeah, here we are. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah. So Aram, start out by just telling us a little bit about your background, how you got into the real estate business. We're both, I think, native Californians, which makes us kind of unique, right? So
right,
so tell starting as far back as you want to go, because sometimes younger people watch this and get ideas about what they do.
Yeah. Well, I'm a native Angelino. And I actually went to school here. I graduated from the University of Southern California in 2021, Marshall School of Business. And shortly after, go Trojans. Yeah, shortly after, I got into real estate via the mortgage business. We were in the mid 2000s, and rates were very low, and it was a booming industry, and did really well. And shortly after that, I guess a few years later, the market shifted. And then of course, we had the 2008, 2009 crash. At that point, I transitioned my business from being in mortgages to actually getting into assisting in the distressed property market. Mm-hmm. And what we did is, and that was a huge sector of the real estate industry, right?
Right.
We kind of made it, we saw that in that crisis, there was an opportunity, right? Mm-hmm. And we really, I made it a real focus to make sure that I understood what was going on, what was happening to people who owned properties and what was happening with their lenders, et cetera. So we ended up selling hundreds of properties through that process when people couldn't keep their homes and whatnot. But that was my cutting teeth in getting into the real estate sales world. And then sorry,
if I can just interject, why coming out of college real estate as opposed to I don't know, manufacturing or you know what I'm saying? Why real estate?
Well, it's funny you say that, because actually when I did immediately graduate from university, I did get into the manufacturing business, which was my parents were in the textile and in the packaging business, and they had a couple of different businesses based in downtown Commerce, California. And I did go work there for a couple of years, but I had been doing that throughout my college years and a couple of years after. And for some reason, I just didn't love it. It was just, it was not a preference for me, and I wanted to do something that I thought was fun and that I could really understand. And I had always knew and understood that, real estate is such a, it's like these properties and the land in which they live on, they're never going to create more of them, so there's an inherent value in these things. And I really wanted to learn about that. And I just really wanted to learn about how do you acquire these, what goes into selling them? What are the other businesses around, anything involving properties? And so my entry was in the mortgage side of it. Mm-hmm. And so I did end up learning a lot about the financing side of it and underwriting and what it takes and all those things. So I still have that knowledge and background, which has actually been very useful for me, even today,
So if you don't mind my asking a follow-up question, and you can decline to answer this, but how did your parents respond when you told them basically, you didn't want to follow in their footsteps?
Yeah, yeah. It was that was actually difficult. It was a very difficult decision to make. And sometime, even to today, thank God my parents are still around. And I'll play tennis with my dad, or I'll go over there for dinner, and we'll still talk about the opportunities that may have been if I had stayed in business with him. So there is like, not regret, but I do sometimes wonder, if I had stuck through it, what I could have done maybe with their businesses.
Mhm.
But I don't regret the decision that I made, because of the opportunities that I have been able to encounter, and the people that I employ, and the opportunities that I've created for so many people that that work with me and on my team and all these different things. So I think at the end of the day, it was the right choice for me.
Yeah, yeah. Good. And so you worked in distressed real estate for quite a while.
Yes.
Eventually those properties, sort of got absorbed and the market righted itself. So
Correct.
what was your next step from there?
Right. So, when I had begun that real estate business of property sales, it was kind of around the time in which I had met my now wife,
Mm,
and she happens to be from London, from the UK.
mm,
And, so I would travel to London often with her in those early years that we had met. And early on, we had met a friend of hers who worked at a company called Quintessentially, which is started in London, and today has 40 offices, brick and mortar offices worldwide.
wow.
And their entire business is basically providing concierge and luxury lifestyle services to high net worth individuals, families, offices, on sort of like on a membership type of basis. So an individual will pay Quintessentially anywhere between $10,000 and $50,000 a year to provide like full concierge, take care of all of your life, needs. It can range from anything to, I'm booking travel accommodations. We're moving to a new area. I need my kids' needs. We need to find out education options for my kids. So please connect me with the top educational consultants. We're setting up. It's my husband's 50th birthday, so I need to set up a big event, and I need a big planner. I need assistance in planning so it's a full assortment of assistance with what the wealthy kind of need in their lives. To just save them time, energy, and really give them that back. So I had met this company, and I said, "Wow, like this is really great." I was sort of trying to get out of the distress side of the business because, as you said, the properties were getting absorbed, prices were going back up. And so there were fewer of these, properties to actually even work around. And I wanted an entryway now into the luxury market. So I said to this group, I said, I'm a successful real estate broker in Los Angeles, based in Beverly Hills. Who do you refer your business to? And they said, well, funny enough, we do have ancillary businesses, and one of our ancillary business is real estate, and we have a real estate office in London, and they had a couple of other real estate offices scattered throughout the world. And I said, well, here's another opportunity for me. And what I did was I said, look, I will open your real estate office in Los Angeles and Beverly Hills, because I wanted to have that, unique opportunity, the unique selling proposition to clientele. I wanted to be able to offer those services, and I wanted to be able to tap into their network as well. So about 10 years ago, I ended up partnering with this company, and I rebranded my business as Quintessentially Estates, and we're based in Beverly Hills. And now I run a big team based out of Coldwell Banker in Beverly Hills.
So you're, and is that how Quintessential typically works? They're like a subcontractor almost, or how are they typically organized?
No, they are Quintessentially is its own standalone business. They provide, they have an office here in Los Angeles. They do provide all the lifestyle services. I am their exclusive real estate partner.
Oh, okay.
Because I was already at Coldwell Banker in Beverly Hills, and it's a great company and a great office, and we have offices right here. I'm sitting on Cannon Drive, in beautiful Beverly Hills.
Right.
And there's so many advantages of being part of the big brokerage. What I did is I just rolled my company and we kept it under Coldwell Banker. But
Okay.
we're branded as Quintessentially Estates as a team.
Gotcha. And now talk to us then about, what is concierge real estate service?
Yes.
Everybody knows, like, you go to a hotel, you have the concierge, they get you the
Right.
tickets or the,
Yeah.
the restaurant reservation, right?
Yeah.
But when it comes to real estate, like, I don't think you have someone, living in your house.
Right. So
So,
that actually gets me that so yes, thank you for that, Kevin. So through this process of being, exclusively tied to this concierge lifestyle company that have been doing their business for 30 years now, I realized that there was a need for an elevated service in the luxury real estate space here in LA. And what that means is, typically when a real estate broker or agent sells a property or represents a buyer who's purchasing a property, it's quite transactional. You're assisting them with making sure that they understand what they're purchasing or selling, and how you identify value and what's this thing worth, and you negotiate on the price, and you do all the things that a typical real estate broker will do, right?
mm-hmm.
But what I found is that after the transaction finishes, your relationship kind of ends as well.
Mm-hmm.
Until maybe down the line, they may want to transact again, or they have a referral or whatever, and that's been typically the way that the businesses work. But what I realized is that these property purchasers and sellers and people who are purchasing anything from $1 million and up or anywhere around there.
Mm-hmm.
There are other needs beyond just simply the transaction that frankly, many don't even know who to go to. So what we ended up doing was, and this actually stemmed from Quintessentially referring us some international clients. And what happened was they purchased properties here in Los Angeles through us, but they said, Aram, we actually don't have anybody to take care of this home for us. We spend, 4 months of the year in Dubai. We spend 3 months of the year in London. We're only here 2-3 months of the year, but for the rest of the time, the property remains vacant. And, we'd like to know that there's a set of eyes on it and that the property is being upkept, and, just mail is being collected and mailed to us, and, property taxes when they're due, we're aware of it, and all these different things. So we ended up actually saying, we can do those things for you. And we'll charge you a reasonable fee to do so.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, in London, the Quintessentially real estate office has been doing that also now for 15 some odd years. And so they sort of like blazed the path for us.
Uh-huh.
And I realized that in LA, there are very few organized businesses that do this. And it's actually, the term for it I came to understand was, it's not estate management, because usually an estate manager is somebody is employed by you and they live at the property, and but this is fractional estate management.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's effectively like we are your estate manager, but we do this for multiple properties, and it's in a very organized fashion, and you have a point of contact, and there are certain things that we do for you every week, every month, and so we realized that there was a need for that.
Mm-hmm.
And then stemming from that, what we also realized is that there's also a need for owners of properties that are not even necessarily remote, who, this is a second or third home for, but they live here.
Mm-hmm.
And they want that convenience of having a single point of contact who can deal with the landscaper, the pool person, other vendors that may come to the property that they simply don't have the time or the knowledge or the expertise to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
And also the upkeep of properties. So, for example, homes all have, 5 or 6 major components in them.
Right.
The heating and air system, the plumbing, the electrical,
Mm-hmm.
the roof,
Mm-hmm.
the gutters around the roof, your garage doors and gates. All these different components, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if they're not maintained properly, then what ends up happening is that they end up breaking down. And
Right.
usually what happens is the cost of the repair is far greater than the cost of what would be the general maintenance, of
Mhm.
of those components, right?
Right.
But again, these are cumbersome and tedious types of activities for somebody who owns a luxury property to usually deal with on their own, right?
Right.
And
Mhm.
either they don't know about it, either they don't know what to do, or they just don't have the time, or they would rather spend their time doing things that are more valuable to them, like being with their family, making money, doing whatever they do, traveling, being, all those things. So we realized that there's a need for this actually in LA. And what we've discovered with our proof of concept with, the handful of homes, I don't know, we've managed, I don't know, 10, 15 homes now. But
Mhm.
what we realized from everybody who we've talked to is that, hey, I would love that service if somebody could just handle the ins and outs of dealing with my home. And by the way, if something breaks down, I know who to call. I'll call you.
Mhm.
I won't have to call and look up four different, plumbing companies or four different roofers. I know that if I go to you, because, I'm contracted with you, that you will find me three or four vetted, vendors, and provide me the pricing that is the most appropriate for the job, and just help me see it through, and then it's done.
Mhm.
So we're at that point now where we're going to embark on actually like a large rollout of this program,
Mhm.
and we're super excited about it. We actually we're going to name that we're actually rebranding the company, the actual estate management company, so that it's going to be a standalone business on its own.
Okay.
And so we've actually rebranded the company, and we're naming it Major Domo. And major, I'm going to look this up, but major domo, the definition of a major domo is a head steward of a large household or
Mhm.
palace back in the old days.
Right. Right. Uh-huh.
A major domo ensures the smooth functioning of your home, from supervising other staff members, housekeepers, chefs, chauffeurs, to managing household budgets, inventory, maintenance. So I thought that was a super appropriate name for really what it is that we're doing. We're orchestrating the harmony and cohesiveness of your home.
So, in addition to being a fractional estate manager, you're almost like a fractional butler as well, because you're managing. You can even manage on-site staff. It sounds like.
Well, we're going to have, yes, if that is something that the homeowner requests, we will be able to price that in and figure out a way in which we can do that for them.
Mhm.
Yes, but so what we want to become is really a fully holistic solution for property owners beyond the purchase and sale of their home.
So it's interesting because when I started my real estate career, which is now back in the mid '80s, and there's always that fundamental decision, residential or commercial.
Yeah,
Right.
right.
And one of the reasons I went into commercial was I had a sense that um, when you do a residential transaction, as you mentioned, okay, so you help somebody buy a home or you help somebody sell a home, and now that's kind of it. Maybe 5, 7, 10 years down the road, there'll be another opportunity there, but that's pretty much it. Whereas when I went into commercial real estate, I could help somebody buy or sell a property. If I helped them buy a property, I could
Manage.
manage the property for them, and then use that as a way to bring them additional opportunities to buy more properties, expand their portfolio, and really create a relationship, an
Yes,
ongoing relationship, right?
yes,
So it
yes.
sounds very much like this is what you're building, really for the first time in the residential side of the business.
That's a really good analogy, Kevin. Exactly. And in fact, I think that you said the word, which is an ongoing relationship, and I think, at some point down the line, our relationship is always with the individual or the family. But, if our goal will be to one day, really have like a relationship with the property,
Hmm.
so that we become integral in like the ownership of the property.
Hmm.
And eventually, by using technology and automated systems, and I mean, because we're already starting to tinker with all this stuff, but But eventually, we will be able to offer services like this, but for not just the luxury, the super high end. The goal will be to offer it for, even the middle market, where it's not going to cost as much, but it'll be a little bit more, and it will be a little bit more automated. But beyond the purchase or sale of the property, you will end up having an additional hands-on assistance with anything involving your home, And I think if you think about it, the sort of, our economy is moving, especially in the Western world, I guess, is moving more towards like, saving time, right? Anything that can save you time or ease that pain, like how many people are now ordering food, from any one of these like DoorDash or
right.
Because I don't want to go drive down the road, or I don't want to figure out which company is going to be able to deliver to my address. I just go to that app and I know that they're going to find them for me.
Right.
Uber did it. I mean, Amazon did it. I mean, so there is a version of this that I do believe will work for the luxury or even just the residential property owner regarding care of their most valuable asset, And I think that our goal is to address that. And we're going to start in the luxury market because that's really, I think, where initially the market will pay for this, and rightly so. But I mean, it's extremely worth it for them. But once we're feeling really good about the systems and the scale, then we're going to be able to actually like provide a service that's maybe not as like, in depth, but is still going to be extremely valuable and provides a lot of the services for the middle market as well.
Right. So two things that strike me as I'm listening to you. One is the technology of a home seems to be getting ever more complex. The so-called smart homes, that kind of thing. So I'm curious to know what your take is on that. That's number one, and then the other one is that there, like I can tell you, the commercial property management business is moving more and more toward essentially when you manage somebody's property, you have a portal that they can go to online. They have 24/7 access to their information. They can submit requests or whatever. The tenants pay their rents by, electronic funds transfer. Everything happens through that portal. There's such an efficiency there because, among other things, it can be asynchronous. So I'm wondering what you think about, those two aspects, because it seems like you're in that mix.
Yes. So that is exactly where we want to go, where the property owners, they actually now, when they do sign up with us, they do have an app, and all of their property information is categorized in the app, and serial numbers of appliances and make, year, model, all those things are all cataloged. And so we are going to have a central hub for every property owner that they can just go to if they need to identify anything, or if they do need to contact us regarding anything that's a proactive issue or a reactive issue. Hey, I noticed something, I don't know. I noticed something that looks like mold under my sink, Take a picture of it. They just upload it into the app, and then we get it, and then we contact them. Would you like us to bring out, some like 2-3 specialists to diagnose the issue? So all of that can happen through the app. And that actually helps with a lot of the ability to scale this, so that it's just a lot more efficient. And yes, Kevin, that's exactly where we're going to go, so that this ends up being a seamless experience for the homeowner. And it feels like, Uber, or it will feel like one of these like really like, smooth processes where I don't have to think too much and there's not too much questions and back and forth. It becomes really simple. Regarding your other question involving the technology in, the homes. Yeah, you're right, for sure. I mean, there are smart home components to properties. I think in the future, it'll be really amazing. And they've talked about this. I guess it was the Internet of Things, but, eventually, hopefully, the different components in properties will speak to each other. And if something is actually not functioning properly, then if we are plugged into that system, then we would actually be notified before the homeowner even knows about it, right?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
That,
Yes. Uh-huh.
that would be really cool, but I do think that that's going to take time. It will maybe that technology will be here in 10 years or 15 years based on the way things I see are happening now.
Mm-hmm.
But if we are able to get plugged into systems that are much more that are online, for example, like your heating and air will say, time for air filter change, and we get pinged about it.
Mm-hmm.
We just go straight out to we set an appointment and we go to the property, handle it for the homeowner. They don't even have to deal with it.
Right.
That would be ideal. In the meantime, what we're doing is we have a complete schedule of everything that has to occur with your specific property,
Mm-hmm.
based off of like our diagnosis of it,
Mm-hmm.
and then we will ping the property owner and say, time for air filter change. Can we come to the property this week to facilitate? Time for your every 6-month roof gutter clearing or whatever. So we will have those schedules set forth within our own app.
Mm-hmm.
And then the whole point of why we're going to be valuable is because we're going to let the homeowner know, like, it's time to do these things.
So that leads me to another question, and that is, it seems to me that especially over time, you're going to compile digitally, but a file of the history of the maintenance of that house. So
Mhm.
if I were to be interested in buying that house, it seems to me that information would be very valuable to me, because I would have a sense of how the house was maintained, in the same way that if I were buying a car,
Yes.
you could see the file of how the car was made. Right. It's very different to buy a car where, they did the oil change every, whatever it is, 6 months, 12 months, whatever it is,
Yes.
these days. Or
100%.
I'm saying, so how do you see that aspect working into your business now, where there's sort of a connection between major domo and quintessentially estates, or
Well, you've Kevin, I give you a tremendous amount of credit, because I had a kernel of like that thought, but I think you've actually extrapolated it and taken it to the next level for me. So thank you. I mean, because my business has primarily, my core business has been in property sales, right?
Mhm.
I have always known that homes that have been better maintained generally should sell for more than homes that are not, right?
Right.
Look, just as an example, I am listing a property that's a fabulous estate. Okay. What is it? 6,500 square feet. It's in Calabasas. It's gated. It's on 2.5 acres. It's got a sports court and a swimming pool. I mean, it's a dream property, right?
Right.
The problem is that the property was not maintained properly.
Mm.
And it's gone into disrepair. Okay.
Mhm.
Now, had the property been maintained properly, the homeowner actually could have probably yielded maybe $1 million more in their sale price,
Mhm.
as opposed to now somebody who has to go in, purchase the property, and address all of these issues.
Right.
Now, wouldn't it be great if, and again, that's why I knew that this was a valuable service to provide in the first place, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
But wouldn't it be great if the homeowner that did maintain the property upfront could say, property has been maintained professionally,
Mm-hmm.
with records available, for the past however many years via, major domo.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would give another level of credibility and provide an additional layer of value to the property. And throughout the sale price, I think throughout the sale process would greatly not only assist in like the speed of the sale, but the price.
Yeah.
So it's like a Carfax, right? I mean, I guess
Right.
like, isn't that what it's kind of like what that thing is, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. The
Yeah.
other thing that strikes me too is that most people, most buyers, and certainly the agents representing them, they know to, get a property inspected right before they
Right.
waive contingencies. And it seems like no matter how well a house is maintained, they always come up with a laundry list of, things to try and renegotiate the price.
Yes.
And if you have this, file of how the property is maintained, you say, well, I know you're saying that you want X number of dollars because I don't know, the HVAC is not good, but here's the HVAC maintenance record. I'm sorry, that's just not a credible, request.
Yeah, no, but you're absolutely right. And look, how cumbersome would it be for even if an owner wanted to keep those records, how cumbersome would it be for them to compile them and have them all, cataloged and play, as opposed to, hey, just, send me my full file, and then we would have all that information. So
Yeah.
I think it would be valuable. I look, I think there's a tremendous amount of value while they own the property, just simply for the convenience and for the ease of dealing with all these things, and the time element, but also like down the line. Yeah. So I think you're 100% right on with that. And then, there are going to be other things as well. Like, so for example, one of the gentlemen who we're bringing on board, he's actually who's going to be our chief operating officer. He's been doing estate managing for the ultra high net worth. And there are some like service requests that are beyond just the normal maintenance of the property, which I'm hoping we are going to be able to facilitate as well. Such as, we would like to explore Christmas decorations on the exterior of our home, lighting, or Hanukkah or whatever, And so do you have, a few vendors that you can recommend to us and, maybe, be on site when that happens? Or, there are various other components that revolve around the home that I think we may be able to also offer that are a great little add-on, that I think some people will like.
For sure. So one of the things that I've noticed is it seems like this is, started with COVID, is vendors are so busy. It's so hard to get reliable quality, whether with plumbers, electricians, right?
Yeah.
And it's such an atomized business. It's not like you can call the the Amazon, right, of contracts. So how do you deal with that part of it? And because and maybe I should have asked this question first. When you talk about being the office for Los Angeles, how do you define Los Angeles? Are we talking about the city limits? Are we talking about the greater LA area? What does your territory look like? And then how do you deal with that issue of having vendor coverage?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think that for now, we want to make sure that we are able to execute really well in areas and provide like the real proper vendors. And so currently, our region is really like the greater LA area, I wouldn't say county, but, we do have clientele as far east as like San Marino, Pasadena.
Okay.
I would say on the outer cusp of, east, the eastern border of LA, and really probably the west side and the valley. We are able to accommodate those as well. And our vendors, it's really important for us to make sure that our vendors are licensed and bonded and ultra professional, and are also, charging prices that are really in line with market, and, they're not gouging and those types of things. So, we already have a large list of vendors, but our goal is to continue to assess, and reevaluate and make sure that these are really the best people for any one of these components. And again, just for the benefit of the property owner, so that they don't have to go through this, this Easter egg hunt of trying to find who's the best and who can be here on time. Because if they contact us, we can go check with a handful of different vendors to get them out there as soon as possible.
Right. I mean, it's and that is one of the most frustrating parts. I know I was looking for someone to come and change, the locks on the doors here in my house. And a friend of mine, recommended TaskRabbit, I think it's called.
Mhm.
It's not to knock them or anybody, but it was so hard to deal with, but then the thought of calling, different locksmiths and getting
Mhm.
bids, and it's like,
How about just having to be on site for a 4-hour window potentially,
right.
right? You're a
Mhm.
busy person, you're successful, you do what you do really well, and you're providing your contributions to the economy and to society by doing what you do. But
Right.
when you have to be there waiting, for a locksmith, or a window repair person or whatever it is,
Right.
I mean, what's the cost of that, right?
Right. Exactly.
So I
Exactly.
look at it in that way as well. Hey, that's why I'm willing to pay the additional $10 potentially for Uber Eats to deliver a lunch to me if I can be doing more productive things, you know.
Right.
And maybe it's not for everybody, but I do think that for people who value their time, it works.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah.
So let's say you have a client who, I don't know, they want to, remodel their bathroom or their kitchen.
Mhm.
How would that work into the mix of what major domo would do for them?
So I think for the time being, for major projects like that,
Hmm.
there's a lot of potential subjectivity that could come into play.
Hmm.
We're going to try to stay away from managing large projects that involve major home improvement. Um,
Hmm.
and what we may do is we can refer general like vetted reputable contractors,
Hmm.
architects, anybody who we know through our resources. But I think that for managing those projects, it probably is not something that we want to do at the moment.
Hmm.
And we're not set up for it. And I don't think that we want to get into those types of things because it would not be really our core competency.
Right. Right. No,
Yeah,
that makes sense. That makes sense. I mean, and it's a whole different set of licenses and,
that's right. Yeah.
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 I mean, what we want to really do, we want to play in the space of the major components of your property
Hmm.
and keeping them running well and making sure that like if you need some additional hands on deck, we can help with that. But major projects like a kitchen remodel or a bathroom remodel or anything like that, I think is probably not going to be for us at the moment. But what we will do is just refer to the best people that we know.
Right. Right. So I wanted to go back to something you mentioned a few minutes ago, like, putting up Christmas lights and that sort of thing. The sort of, I mean, I don't put up Christmas lights. I'm Jewish, but I mean, it seems like, if I wanted to have my house decorated, I would really want to have it decorated. But for me to do it would be impossible. So, um, ha- you know, well, so on the Jewish side of things, like if I have to put my sukkah up, for the fall holidays, right? Um, uh, how do you? I mean, do you have Are there specific vendors that handle that kind of thing, or how does that sort of thing work?
Yeah, definitely. I think that the key thing for us is just again going back to like what a major domo does is that we would simply be orchestrating the specialists who do those things and
Hmm.
making sure that like they do great work. We can vet them, and that they're really responsible to do it, and we will oversee it and make sure that the owner is getting the best options available for doing the work. We're not set up to actually hang lights or do those things ourselves. Maybe down the line, for some of like the reoccurring activities that occur, not holiday lighting and stuff like that, but handyman related items. The goal will be to do those things in house.
Okay.
But for now, for all of the major, any of the serious work that will go on in the property, it's going to be done by professionals that
Hmm.
focus on that and have been doing that for 10,000 hours, so that they are complete experts at what they do. And we oversee it and make sure that they're the right people, that the owner doesn't have to necessarily be hyper involved in the process. They know that it's going to start, that it's going to happen expediently, and it's going to finish, and the result is going to be good. And
Hmm.
that's what we're going to, help assist them with.
Okay. So, Next question, and this is maybe getting into the weeds too much, but so I know, having had a commercial property management company, many years ago. So, one of the benefits of that is we collect the rents. So
Mhm.
when we're paying for expenses, the money is there, right?
Yes.
There's no question from the vendor, how am I getting paid, et cetera, right?
Right.
In your case, you're not collecting any rent for handling these properties. So how does the whole, movement of money work? Because money oftentimes is kind of the bugaboo in these things, right? So
Right.
how,
Yes.
how,
Good
how,
question.
how does that work?
Yeah, really good question, actually. And it's something that we're actually currently like navigating with the best way to handle. Because, we have not scaled this up to, an insurmountable amount of homes to handle.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of these homes have been referred to us by Quintessentially, or we've known these people via, transactions that we've done in the purchases and sales.
Uh-huh.
There is a level of trust there that
Mhm.
we do feel comfortable with. What we've done, what we customarily do is the owner pays for our management fee upfront, like every month upfront.
Mm-hmm.
And then if there are smaller related items that need to be paid for, we generally will feel comfortable, for paying those items upfront,
Mm-hmm.
as long as, and then the homeowner gets billed for those items, to be paid in the next month.
Gotcha.
If they are bigger ticket items, like, I don't know, something that's over $1,000 that needs to be taken care of,
Mm-hmm.
then what we do in those cases is we will let the owner know that this is something that we would like for them to pay upon the work being completed.
Mm-hmm.
And then they will generally agree to that or not. And if they don't agree to it, well, then we'll tell them that that piece of work cannot be done. It's like,
Right. Okay.
so that's generally how we've been treating that.
Mm-hmm.
As we scale up, well, I think it's a really good question, and we're trying to come up with that right, formula
Mm-hmm.
for how those things get paid. I think that's why we're starting in the luxury market, though, because it's easier to manage. I do believe that the people who own a lot of these properties understand maybe that, hey, you know what, it's okay, and I understand that the company that Major Domo is handling this for me. This is a big ticket item. I can, I'll pay out of credit card, or I'll pay for check for that. They're going to oversee the work, and so on and so forth.
Right.
Right. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. I mean, the bottom line is, I think you're right. People, in the market that you're serving, they're used to a sort of division of labor, if you will.
Yes.
And having other people responsible for getting things done, even though, the financial responsibility is theirs, right? So.
Yes. I think they understand.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a really good question, and I think that as the goal becomes to scale and provide this service for more people,
Mm-hmm.
or property owners and families, that we will probably need to come up with maybe a different financial structure for how payments get made, and so on and so forth. But really great, astute question. Yeah.
So, let's say that I'm a real estate agent who deals with high-end homes. Okay, but I don't have a major domo service available to me, and yet my clients could really benefit from it. But in the back of my mind, I'm concerned because if I hand over my client, now all of a sudden major domo is building a relationship with them, and if the client at some point does want to sell the property, I'm going to be kind of cut out. So what is your thinking around working with other agents who could potentially bring you business, but might have that trepidation about losing losing, I don't want to say control of the relationship, but just losing the relationship?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I've actually I've sort of navigated this throughout my real estate career, and being in the brokering community, there is a code of ethics, and there is like a sense of, hey, there's a right way to do business and a wrong way to do business.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when I started in the distressed world, in my other life,
Mm-hmm.
We were actually negotiating short sales as our business. So, and we were like dealing with the lenders. I'm not sure how familiar with are with how short sales work, but you'd have to get a lender to approve it, and they were often long, complicated negotiations and transactions. And there were a ton of agents that I knew that didn't want to deal with that element of it whatsoever. They had the relationship with the client. They knew how to conduct a normal transaction, but they didn't want to deal with anything involving anything with the bank or any of that stuff. So they would come to us, we would arrange a fee, and we would get paid to handle all of the bank related issues, etc. And we always made it very clear, your client is your client, now and then down the line. And there are other examples of how that works even today in the real estate world, with referrals and whatnot. So I think to answer that question, if there's a real estate agent that thinks that this is a valuable tool for their client, and I do believe that it will be really valuable, even like as a parting gift, as a closing gift or something like that, to pay for 2-3 months of it up front or something, or longer, 6 months, depending on how the size of the property, the amount of the fee that they receive, then yes, I think the answer is definitely it's your client. And when it does come time for them to buy or sell, that you will be the first call that gets made if for whatever reason they don't come to us first. I mean, if they don't, yes, I mean, that would be the answer.
Right. And you point out, and this kind of goes back to the very beginning of our talk when you were, discussing why you wanted to get into real estate. I know for me, one of the things that I found pretty quickly was, as competitive as real estate is, on the other hand, there's a lot of collegiality and working together, because you never know, your next transaction may come about because of, someone that you're dealing with today.
100%.
And so you really need to protect your reputation and be someone that is trustworthy in dealing with our fellow real estate professionals.
Kevin, at least in the luxury space, the sandbox is a lot smaller, than people may think. It's a big city, but really like the amount of professionals that are consistently, dealing with a lot of the luxury clientele is not that many. And so I think that the goal is so that, and listen, they do excellent work, and a lot of them provide, unique selling propositions and services that I think are fabulous. And I do think that there's a space for these to coexist together, and for this to be a service. And actually, that's part of the reason why I wanted to make this a standalone business and brand it as Major Domo and not My Quintessentially Estates, was so that this could literally be its own company. Eventually who knows, maybe this will be all I do,
Right.
if it becomes big enough. And our goal will be eventually to go from Los Angeles to San Francisco to Orange County to, New York and Miami, anywhere that has homes that may require a little bit more upkeep and where people want some additional assistance and whatnot.
Yeah. Wow. Well, we're actually, we had planned to go for about 45 minutes. So we're a little bit over time, but
that's flew by.
Yeah. And before I wrap up, anything else that that you want to tell us about what you're doing, in terms of the this fractional estate management or the concierge real estate?
I think we've covered a lot of the salient points. If anybody watches this and is just curious about, really again how it works and wants like a proper presentation on it, I would be really happy to walk them through what we do and how it works. And there's a whole menu of services. And it's a very clearly defined offering. And I would just love to be able to talk to anybody who has any questions on it. And I do feel very excited about it because it's something that's new. It's something that you feel like would be already be here, like a company doing this. It just feels like there isn't, and so I just feel like if nobody's doing it, then why are we not doing it?
Right. So I'll make sure that your contact information, links to your website and such are in the show notes after the show posts. Well, so that way anyone watching the show who wants to contact you, they'll have the information right there and they'll be able to do so.
Thank you, Kevin. I really appreciate your time today.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. So I'm going to have you sit tight while I do a quick wrap up, and then we can talk offline for a minute. So I see we've got some people who joined us live. Thank you so much, as always, for watching the show. I'm sure you found this interesting. I found it fascinating as someone whose whole professional career, with exception of the time I spent in the Navy, is in real estate. And it is the kind of thing, like, it's like, how did nobody ever come up with this before? When Aram first told me about it, it's like, oh, that kind of thing. So, and I encourage you, if you have questions, or if especially like if you're in my business, professional fiduciary, and you've got a large property where now the occupants are deceased, you don't want that property to just be sitting there empty. So you can bring in Aram's people, and they can maintain the property properly, and I'm pretty sure at a far less cost to what a professional fiduciary would have to charge, and much more efficiently. So for those who are in kind of my world, the trust and estates world, I think the service that Aram is offering is also very, very valuable. So thank you all so much for joining us. This wraps us up for the week. Just real quickly, next week on Monday at 10 a.m. is my show, Trust and Estates Weekly. We're actually doing a replay with Hillary Cooper. She was supposed to be my guest a couple of weeks ago. We had some technical problems, and so Hillary's going to be joining me again, and she's going to be talking about preparing for downsizing. So please join me next Monday at 10 a.m. Pacific time. On Tuesday at 10 a.m. is my show, Business Lessons from the Military. And my guest is going to be Zach Arnold. Zach and I, longtime friends. We met on deployment when I was in the Navy. And Zach is going to talk about leadership lessons from Harold Godwinson, a legendary figure in British history. I think you will find Zach's thoughts on that absolutely fascinating. And then on Wednesday, 7 days from today, is our monthly Economic Echoes. So please join me for that. And then finally, next week is my Every Other show on Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific time, Jiggers' Place. I'm going to be talking about Earl Durr Biggers and his quintessential character, Charlie Chan. And we're going to be digging into this idea of what really goes on in terms of how people are represented throughout the ages, throughout various time periods. So we'll sit back, have a cocktail, and maybe get into something that's a little bit more controversial than what we really normally talk about. So invite you to join me then. So again, Aram, thank you so much for joining me. Really appreciate it. All of you out there, wishing you a wonderful rest of the week, and signing off as I always do. Marie, you are my bell. Courage at all times.